It's time to have that conversation again about the reserve list and the falling prices, because some of these reserve list cards are a real deal. So the players want to know what's going on with the reserve list, Moxman. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel today. I'm wearing red, but I should be wearing green because I see opportunity and I feel like there's money in the air. And that's just that side of me that says, oh, there's such good opportunity. Now, this is the day of the week where I cover Card Watch, so the title stays the same. But there are some real phenomenal deals going on right now in the secondary market. With all the emails coming in from players asking, is this a good time to buy? I have to say it is. It is a good time to buy. I'm going to show you guys cards today. We're going to go over this stuff. I'll explain the reasoning behind it, but I do feel we are nearing the bottom of that. And it's funny because a lot of my sentiments are also being echoed on larger channels like Alpha Investments. He's saying the same thing. He's like, look, things are stabilizing. Things aren't that bad. Exactly. And he's noticing some of the smaller buyouts, which makes me feel that's an epic conversation topic. All right, so when you're looking at these cards, guys, 572 cards of fun, but they've been falling or been stale for so long. Now, a lot of the cards on the list today are not going to be the heavy-hitting cards you might be expecting. There's a couple on this list today, sure, because they're at a bargain, but I'm looking for deals. I'm looking for opportunity in which cards could come out further ahead down the road. Maybe not now, but in the future. Do these cards have playability? Are they used in formats? Are they cheap enough to be bought en masse if you want to get more than just one? That's the kind of stuff I'm looking at, and not every card is cheap, obviously, because some even expensive or more expensive cards, those mid-tier, they have some deals going on too. Now, surprisingly, I couldn't put any dual lands on the list. Those prices are stale, but they're not falling. So there's not major opportunity on the dual land segment right now. I'm keeping my eye on it. I'm tracking things, but the sales keep telling me that people are buying it at the price point it's at now. So you're not going to see people, waiting for it to drop any further. People are buying at that point. So that's not going to be something I cover right now. You can wait for the hot top 10 this weekend on Sunday, and we'll see if some of those dual lands do make the hot 10 again for like the fourth week in a row, right? Crazy stuff. And I know some of you guys are buying out there. That's awesome. Congratulations. So let's get started on the video today. We'll start going through the cards. We'll have some fun with this, but these cards are a deal. They are a great bargain right now at some of these places, and you don't always have to go for near mint. If you're a flipper investor and the side of you says you want the best of the best, spend the top dollar, get the more expensive versions. If you're a collector who likes to buy graded copies, it's still a good time. There's a bit of a premium I still don't like being added to some of the cards when they are graded. I might buy some near mint raw cards and send those in for grading yourself if you think you're going to get a better deal on them. Okay, guys? So let's get to this. Let's get started. Nothing says value than when you step into an old set like Tempest, you see a Lurin and you go, wasn't this card 150, 160 bucks? That's right. And now the market price is $67 US. Okay, the average is 75, but the market price, when you look around, you can find deals on lightly played copies of this. When you take a closer look at this card, you can start to see this is not a card that really fell dramatically. It's just starting to fall now with the downward pressure that's been on the reserve list for a while. But as I've told you guys, cheaper cards will fall first. Mid-tier and higher-end cards fall last. This one's just starting to fall now in the last 3-4 months. I didn't mention it too much because I want to make sure the trend was right, but this card has playability. This card has factors that make it a more valuable card for later. 2 green mana, 2 generic. It's an enchantment. Perfect for green, of course, because it is green. Any player may play a creature card with total casting cost 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant card without paying the mana cost. Depending on how you're building your deck, an elf tribal deck, whatever you're building, this is one of those cards that when it rebounds, it's going up to 300. I don't see it, in my opinion, staying at even 150. Okay, it's Tempest, old set, and all the light that's been shed lately on how low these print runs really are and how few cards are actually out there is going to blow people's minds in the next 5 years. Cards like this are at a bargain basement price. Again, in my opinion, I would see this card as a high value target to get for later on. Love the card. Seen it played a lot of times against me. And of course, I was playing like monster decks with huge casting costs, so it didn't really help me much. Now our next card, Urborg Justice. I have mentioned this card. This card's been targeted for buyouts before, okay? That's why you see the spike there and things went up this year, but it is totally coming back down to earth. And I think this card is a decent card. When you take a closer look at Urborg Justice, and if you build your deck correctly, it's an instant for 2 black mana. Target opponent chooses and buries any number of creatures he or she controls equal to the number of creatures put into your graveyard from play this turn. Wow. You know what? Depending on what you're trying to do, this can be a game-changing event. Okay? Because when you mess around with people and start blowing up everything and ending the world, which, you know, this, I mean, I always love this artwork as well. But this can be an amazing card to have. And the price point, going from $30, and you look on TCG Player, I think they had some for $7. That's a really, for a lightly played copy, $7.40. Come on. One for a commander deck makes perfect sense. I do recommend a play set of 4 in case you ever want to flip some later on. But what a bargain basement price. A crazy stuff right now with some of the cards we're seeing. Now, this one I have talked about and I have used, and that's a Quarion Druid, however you want to pronounce it. I've used this card myself from Visions. This card's $4. But what we would do with it, you can see here, it's not a powerful creature. It's a 1/2, whoopee. Yes, 1 green with 2 generic meant we could play it in all kinds of other decks. And target land becomes a 2/2 green creature permanently. That creature still counts as land. We used to like put like on Isochron Scepter, put like a shock or what do you call it, a lightning bolt, and we would blow up people's lands. We'd animate them and kill them at the end of our turns. So you'd start doing land destruction for free once a turn. Eventually you overpower someone. Cards like this, when played in Commander and built correctly, this is your basically a green land destruction guy who can start taking out people's stuff. You can use it as a defensive card, sure, as an offensive card, but it also has land destruction ability when you think of it that way. And for $4, there's a reason this card was climbing, and then people got caught up and forgot about it. You can find this card for like $2 and change on TCG Player. An amazing deal, guys. I can't say, like, get 4, definitely. I actually bought a playset of 4 myself just today. This is what, Thursday morning? Sorry, Wednesday night I bought a playset of 4 because I was like, no way. That cheap, I'm not letting it go by. Okay, City of Solitude from Visions. Again, this card was like $80. You can find it. TCG Player again. Market price is around $14 to $17 lightly played. Yeah, check for the shipping though, guys, okay? But you look at that card. You take a closer look at the abilities on City of Solitude. 1 green, 2 other. Each player may play spells and abilities only during his or her turn. So talk about, stopping crazy stuff from happening. An enchantment like this that just kind of freezes everything in time and says, your turn's your turn and my turn's my turn. And nothing else happens in between, which means you're not countering my stuff. You're not stopping me from doing things. When you've built your deck to say that's what you want to have happen, and you put things in to say that spells can't be countered, and you start building a green and red deck around this kind of stuff, you can have a lot of fun. And this card, again, I believe was $19 and change if you're going to buy it on TCG Player. If you're looking here in Canada, though, this card is still like $35 Canadian for a near mint copy. Keep that in mind, guys. If you're shopping here in Canada, it can be cheaper actually to buy it on TCG Player. Check your local places, see what discounts you get. You can ask me, too, if you're looking for a place that has it. I'll be happy to help you guys out. But City of Solitude is such a good deal right now. Now, our next card here is going to be Undiscovered Paradise. I've mentioned this card enough that most of you guys who've been on the channel for a while, you get where I'm going with this. Landfall loves this. But I like the fact that even though it's spiked up a little bit because people were buying it, it's going back down. It's at that point. Now, the market price being $31 tells me it's still desired by people. It's still out there. But again, this card was around that $50, $60 mark, which means it's still about half the price at its last previous high. And if things rebound the way I expect going into the near future, not yet, but soon, the way I'm tracking things and some of these sales upticking and some of the murmuring I'm hearing in the back channel, it makes me think that cards like this, those low mid-range ones, they were like 30, 40 bucks. They're going to be like 70, 80, 90, and they're just going to stay there. If you have this card, just hold on to it. You're fine. You only need a couple of these copies. But if you don't have any, and this is your chance to buy one, make sure you at least get one. Get it out of the way. Skip the Big Mac meal. Get yourself the Undiscovered Paradise. Get it into the belt. You can get heavily played, moderately played copy, whatever you want for your collection. If you're a flipper investor, you're going for near mint. You guys know what I'm saying. It's a good deal right now. I can't say enough good things. Like cards like this, especially mana-based cards from back in the day, any color mana you need, like just, it's amazing. I used to use this all the time with Fast Bond. Great times. Great times. All right. Now, the next card I want to show you guys is, of course, Anvil of Bogardan. The Anvil of Bog. How about that? The Anvil of Bog just keeps going down. It's amazing. Okay? This card was like 150, 160 bucks. And we're talking $40 now. Heavily played copies in the 30s. Loving it. Here in Canada, still around 60 bucks, by the way. But what a good deal to get on a card like this. When you take a look at that and say, is this card worth it? It was before, so what makes you think it's not now? Again, this used to be a mid-tier reserve list card, mid-range, okay? Look how cheap it is now. At one point, this thing was pacing along Grim Monolith. Grim Monolith has not fallen, and it's not on the list today, but Anvil is, because cards like this, if they go up and you already have a couple of them near mint laying around, you could flip these into money that lets you get a Grim Monolith or lets you step up into bigger cards. Trading up to higher value cards at a bargain basement when things move and timing things correctly is impossible to do. But you can buy things on the low and wait for them to come back around if you believe they will. Some people think they'll never change. Everything's a horrible scenario. I don't think that way, guys. Most of you know that here. I just can't think that everything is going to go horribly wrong. So I keep going, nah, it's going to be good. Now, okay. Alliances, Lake of the Dead. I know some of you guys are buying this card. But for those who didn't know, this is probably the lowest it's going to get. When we look back at early 2020, this card was like 30 bucks or so. And then it started going up. Then it hit the $300 level, and it's been coming down ever since. But it's had a few little resurgences, because as it goes down, players are buying the lightly played and near mint copies. There's only so many out there. There really is, guys. And for those of you who follow this on the channel, you probably think it's good news if you own copies of it. I have not really had to buy any. I have one or two extra. I kept a play set, and I have bought a couple because getting them on TCG Player for 50 bucks was a great deal. I couldn't pass it up. Things for the patrons later on as prizes and stuff when we do like the 20K party. You know, you want to have these kind of things around when they're affordable. So great stuff, man. It's Lake of the Dead. It's some of the best artwork I have ever seen in Magic the Gathering. And sacking a swamp to get 4 black mana, and the thing isn't even legendary, and you got 4 of these in your deck back in the day. We used to use it with Lord of Tressorhorn, whatever his name was. Lord Tressorhorn. Crazy stuff. Crazy good times. All right, Preacher from the Dark. That's right, he's yelling at you from the pulpit, telling you guys what to do. This card was like 160, 170 as well. It's still falling now. This one here, I'm going to say, although it's a great deal, I actually think it's going to go a little bit further down. It's the same as City of Shadows. It's not on the list either today, but I'm watching it because, of course, I watch that card all the time. It's a card of the channel. I'm watching the Preacher fall to get me more opportunity to let you guys know where it's going. It is trending down. It has been for a while, but it's really taking its time getting to the bottom. So I think this thing's going to fall into the low 70s to high 60s before it kind of settles out and too many people start to take notice again. And remember, heavily played copies used to be $60, $70, $80. Now a near mint is going to cost you that price. So if you're going to buy one anyway, get the near mint, I would say. I think you can wait a little while longer to see if it drops in a buck or two, but at that point, who wants to risk it? Gaining control of stuff is always good. I mean, this was one of those cards I used to use all the time in my banding deck. Loved it. So way to go, Preacher. Keep falling down, buddy. We're going to be following you all the way through. Now, this is Ragnar. Okay, this is from Legends. We actually had one in the opening. One of the mystery boxes had it. Now, I bought Ragnar a couple of times in my life. And most times, it was around that $40, $50 mark. But recently, when I bought a couple for the channel, it was like $80, $85. Now he's been falling again. Now, the thing about this card that most people tend to forget, he himself is not that powerful. It's his ability to regenerate a target creature. Not just himself, but anything on the field of battle that makes him good. He's cheap to get out with the right mana combinations, which is not hard by today's standards. It was hard back in the day, but not now. It's like having Zera Irian and stuff. What do you call Bumblebee Girl, whatever, the Wasp Girl, to draw cards. It used to be hard. It's not anymore. And you can get this card for 50, 60 bucks near mint. Heavily played copies are like in the 30s. Crazy to at least own one or two of these cards to keep around for Commander deck, just in case you ever decide to build with it, or maybe for future investments when this card climbs back up. And again, half price, right? It's like a half price off sale, and everyone's been invited to it. Can't say enough. All right, King Solomon. I don't really want to put this guy up here. I'll be honest. Selfish reasons. I don't own this card yet. And this is a card I need for my Arabian Nights collection. But you got to be fair and let people know what's going on. There have been some sales lately that have attracted me to this bad boy. It's making me think I have to pull the trigger on him sooner than I'd intended. King Solomon is a 1/1 for 1 white, 1 generic. But his ability to just tap and destroy in a Frieder Djinn is crazy when you think about how many are out there. They don't get played too often. But if it ever becomes a tribal thing, a card like King Solomon, to be able to just tap and destroy things will be a very powerful card to have. It's also from Arabian Nights, the very first expansion of Magic the Gathering, with a 5 million card print run, which means there's not a lot out there. Okay? And you can get this card in Canada for around 450 bucks, which means that's why I haven't pulled the trigger. It's still pretty expensive. But when you look around and see that he really, after the little spike we had, that little tiny bit, he's been coming back down. He is a harder card to find in decent shape. If you just want a played copy, he's available. People are moving in on Arabian Nights cards. We've talked about this. So if this is a card you've always dreamed about having, cards like this can get further from your grasp if you don't pay attention and pull the trigger sooner than later. I'm worried about that myself, but coming up with that kind of cash is not cheap. But even getting one copy, I keep thinking, you know what could I sacrifice to get that one copy? All right. Now, our next card is going to be Cyclopean Tomb, Unlimited Edition, but I'm also going to talk about Collector Edition. When you see a Cyclopean Tomb, for those who didn't know, this is a 4 generic casting cost artifact from back in the day. Mono artifact means you can only use it once per turn. Pay 2, turn any one non-land swamp into a swamp during upkeep. Mark the changed land with tokens. If Cyclopean Tomb is destroyed, remove one of those tokens each turn, but you pick which ones get removed, so I can make it very hard for the player to get the land base they want. Now, this card for a long time was 60, 70 bucks. The collector edition copies can still be had for like $70, $80. They're super dirt cheap. They shouldn't be. This card can be used effectively. It's old school stuff, guys. The artwork, oh, by the way, is totally breathtaking to me. The idea of the eye and then the person inside the eye is just amazing. Again, it may stay cheap for a long time, but I just don't see it happening over the course of its lifetime. The next 5 years will really tell on cards like this as the eras march along, as the years go by, and seeing where buyouts go and how players react to the secondary market on the reserve list will really give us a showing. But Wizards isn't making cards like these anymore. Look at the cards I've showed you guys. These cards aren't coming around, and a lot of these are Commander playable. It's just insane. Now, our last card, Copy Artifact. Remember I told you guys this card was 20 bucks and I told people to buy it? And I think it was 401. Yeah, it was 401 games, and people wiped out like 60 copies in like a 2-day period at 20 bucks a pop. When you look at the wonderful Copy Artifact, 1 blue, 1 other, an enchantment that copies any single artifact in play except for it's still an enchantment as well. Guys, this card shouldn't be 75 bucks. I don't care. These are all just my opinion. You guys can take it or leave it. That's up to you. But it should not be 75 bucks in my opinion. 150 was cheap. This card's going to go higher. People just fail to recognize what can happen on these markets when things turn around. And hindsight's 2020. Oh, I should have bought it. Yeah. Done it. Been there. Heard that. It's horrible when that happens to you. Yeah, you didn't have the cash. You couldn't come up with the bread to get it on the butter. I get it. But man, with these cards at these prices, people are starting to notice. But King Solomon, he's driving me insane. That's the one I need to get. I sit there and go, want to pull the trigger and I just can't. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Patrons, you make it happen. You lords of the table, the controllers of destiny of this channel. is brought to you by the fantastic patrons who hang out with me every day. Patrons rock! Klaatu Verata.